Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Atlanta City Council District 4 Candidate Forum. My name is Ashley Bruner. I proudly serve as policy advocate at the ACLU of Georgia. And we at the ACLU of Georgia, along with our partners, the League of Women Voters, Atlanta Fulton County, and the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys, encourage informed and active participation in government through education and through advocacy. So we are so excited to share this candidate forum with you this evening that will be moderated by Candace Presley, an award-winning journalist and two-time Hall of Fame member, inducted in 2019 into the Georgia Association of Broadcasters, and in 2016 into the Georgia Radio Hall of Fame. As Director of Community Affairs for WSB-TV, Candace drives the Family to Family Project and leads the station's community efforts across its broadcast forums, including including WSB-TV and the company's 4 radio stations. She's executive producer of People to People on WSB-TV and interviews community leaders weekly during the People to People one-on-one segment. Candace began her career in radio, first in Athens while studying journalism and political science at the University of Georgia, and later in Atlanta at WGST, the Georgia News Network, WSB, KISS 104.1, and B98.5. For more than 30 years, she's hosted the Sunday morning public affairs program, Perspectives, where she's interviewed hundreds of community and thought leaders. The University of Georgia Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication honored Candace with the John H. Drury Outstanding Young Alumna Award in 1992. In 2015, the Grady College named Candace to its Centennial Class of Journalism Fellows, which is the college's highest honor. She's been profiled by the History Makers, the world's largest African-American oral video history archive, for her significant contributions to media. Candace is a former president of both the National Association of Black Journalists and the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists. She was the chapter's 2012 Pioneer Black Journalist, and she's a graduate of Leadership Atlanta. Candace has a passion for the community, and she's strongly committed to the empowerment of women and of girls. Her volunteer efforts include service on the boards of the Girl Scouts of Greater Atlanta, the Atlanta Community Food Bank, Crime Stoppers Atlanta, Project Healthy Grandparents, and Day One, which is the Alliance for Christian Media. Candace loves to travel, and she supports the arts. And we are so proud and honored to have you with us tonight, Candace. Thank you for being here.
And thank you, everyone, for having me. And what a wonderful and gracious introduction. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Forum for Atlanta City Council District 4. All of the qualified and declared candidates were invited to participate in tonight's forum. As our audience will learn in the coming moments, not all of the declared and qualified candidates are here to participate. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce the candidates. I will be introducing the candidates in alphabetical order. Rogelio Arcila is a candidate for this post and is ill this evening, not feeling well. And the league advised him that we would advise our attendees this evening that he had accepted the opportunity to participate, but is not feeling up to being here tonight. So we tell you that. Next, Larry B. Carter II, Jason Dozier, Kim Scott, Deborah, or better, I guess, Sister Williams is a candidate. And the incumbent in this seat is Cleta Winslow. Ms. Winslow is not with us this evening. She is aware of the forum, but is not participating. So with that, let me give you a little idea as to how the forum will run. We will give each of the candidates 1 minute to make an opening statement. Then I will pose to all of the candidates questions about issues specifically for District 4. as well as issues for the city at large. At that point, we will have an opportunity, once those questions have been exhausted, for our attendees to put questions in the chat. We will ask those questions. And at the end of our time together this evening, each of the candidates will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. Now, candidates, you have a minute to answer your questions, and I have someone who is in my ear keeping track of the time. When you have about 15 seconds left in your minute, you're going to see me hold up this little white stick. That means my time is almost up. I need to finish my thought, because I hate to step on you and interrupt you and begin to say thank you, but I will have to do that in fairness to all of the other candidates. So this means 15 seconds, and then I will wrap you up. And then other than that, I think that is everything that we have for this evening. To start, let's go with the opening statements. I will introduce you again in alphabetical order, and of the candidates participating this evening, Mr. Carter, you get the first opening statement.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank you all for having me here tonight. I'm having technical difficulties, so my mouth won't be matching my words, but I promise it's me talking. I'm Larry Carter. I've been in the district for since 2009. I was the president of Ashview Heights Community Association. And I really started my tenure here with service in that community. Then it led me to being the vice chair of NPUT for a few years. I served on the WIN board when I moved over to West End. I am an educator in the city of Atlanta. I taught for 5 years at Atlanta Neighborhood Charter School here in the city of Atlanta. I currently work as a partnership manager for the Census Bureau. And that's what I want to bring to the district, is building relationships and leveraging those relationships to get the services that the people deserve. You know, there's a lot of need in our community, and I'm here to meet the need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Now, Mr. Dozier, your opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Jason Dozier. First and foremost, I'm a husband and a father and a homeowner, and I'm proud of the family that I've grown in Mechanicsville, but I'm also a proud Atlanta native. I was born at Georgia Baptist Hospital off of Boulevard, and I was raised by a single mother on the east side in South DeKalb. My whole life has been centered around service, first to our country, now to our community. As a combat veteran, I served in the Army for 6 years. That included more than 2 years leading as an officer in deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. Professionally, for the last 9 years, I've grown a national nonprofit from 15 employees to 120 in order to help tens of thousands of military veterans and military spouses find good paying jobs across America. I've also served on the boards of the Atlanta Bicycle Coalition, Advance Atlanta, Beltline TADEC, the Turnerfield Community Benefits Coalition, the Entrenchment Creek Community Stewardship Council, and others. And it's because of these diverse experiences, I believe that I am uniquely qualified to take Atlanta's challenges head on. And so today, I'm proud to join you and stand before you as our candidate for Atlanta City Council District 4. Together, we can build a better Atlanta, a better District 4, and a better future for our kids and grandkids.
Mr. Dozier, thank you very much. We will now hear from Ms. Kim Scott.
Good evening, League of Women Voters, Atlanta. My name is Kim Scott. I am a proud City of Atlanta native. I grew up in the Kaya Heights neighborhood in Northwest Atlanta, proud graduate of Frederick Douglass High School. I am a West End homeowner, a past project engineer and director with the City of Atlanta. I now make my living in commercial real estate, former neighborhood planning unit T chair. And one of the reasons why I'm running, I've been working in the community now for 15 years. I'm also a West End homeowner, but when I worked with the City of Atlanta for 7 years, what I noticed is that our local laws really impact every aspect of the quality of life for all citizens of Atlanta. And I believe that we in Atlanta's District 4, we deserve more, we deserve better. And I am that candidate to be able to bring more and better to Atlanta's District 4. So I'm our candidate for Atlanta City Council District 4. I'm happy to be here tonight to make sure that we have the services that we need to be a better district.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. Thank you very much. And now we'll go to Ms. Williams for your 60-second opening statement.
Praise the Lord. Good evening, everyone. Okay, I have 30 years of experience. I don't know how I'm going to put them in 60 seconds. I wrote down some notes tonight, and here I go. I'm a 30-year resident of the West End. I am a property owner. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm the fourth child of 11 siblings. I'm the CEO and the executive director of Women's Workforce Housing Program. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a product of the Atlanta Public School and a member of the West End Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm the founder of West End Neighborhood Association. I tell people I'm the hardest working community activist in the city of Atlanta and District 4. And I'm your neighbor. I have employed over hundreds of youth, men and women through the Redeem programs. I will work for your tax dollars and represent. I'm running for the next city council in District 4 because I need a larger platform to finish the work that I started in 1993 on the south side. I'd like to carry this work to the north side. I worked on the east side with Mechanicsville. And
thank you very much, Ms. Williams. You're right. You got it's hard to put 30 years of something into 60 seconds, but you'll have 60 seconds on the back end to talk about that as well.
For the opportunity. God bless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, everyone, we want to open with some very specific questions for the homeowners and the residents in District 4. And so let's talk about garbage. Over the years, garbage continuously is being dumped in West End neighborhoods. What is your plan to stop or to deter people from dumping garbage in West End residential areas? And Sister Williams, I'm going to go backwards up and ask you to answer that question first.
That's a wonderful question. In 1993, we fought on Greenwich, right there at the corner of the Good Shepherd Church, off of Lucille. That was everybody dumping grounds. We was able to work with the sanitation department and put in signs of no dumping. I currently have a relationship with Cram, where you go over to this place on Hill Street and you can to recycle items such as tires. Ms. Winslow and myself in many years did tire amnesty. So once again, and that 311 number is very helpful. I think we should start by engaging our communities with the knowledge of the resources that is already available. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Ms. Scott, you've got a minute to talk about what to do about the trash in the West End.
Yes, ma'am. So we know that the lack of code enforcement, which leads to not only trash, overgrown areas, vacant and dilapidated properties, illegal dumping, can contribute to unsafe neighborhoods. So what I would like to see and what I would do is to make sure that, number one, we're adding more staffing to code enforcement. We also need to make sure that we're looking at our fines, not that we are causing people to be unduly fined or assessed fines, but making sure we're going after the perpetrators that are actually trashing our neighborhoods and doing illegal dumping. I think we also need to look at the monies that we have budgeted for code enforcement and need to make sure that they have the resources and the money that they need to be able to help us with trash in our areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. Mr. Dozier.
So I agree, part of it is a city staffing issue. We need more code enforcement officers. We need more public works officials, people who are going to be out inspecting our neighborhoods to make sure that dumping isn't happening in the first place. But we know where dumping occurs. It typically occurs in the same places all the time. We have opportunities to put cameras so that we have greater accountability to see who's actually doing the dumping, the license plate readers and things like that. We need to make sure that network is in place and working so that we can hold those folks accountable. But it's not just dumping. Littering is an issue as well. And I honestly would love to see the city do more work with our schools to educate these people, these young people early. So that these kids are ambassadors. They go back home, they tell their parents, hey, this isn't something that we want to see happen. I remember when recycling was being promoted in schools, and I was in elementary school. I came home and told my mama that we need to recycle and start a program. And I want to make sure our city is doing something along those lines to get folks started young and be the ambassadors they can be.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. And then last word on this question goes to Larry Carter. Mr. Carter.
Thank you. My counterparts have brought up some great ideas as well. If elected in my first 100 days, I would want to walk the communities with community members because I believe each community is a little bit different. So finding solutions as a team together, I think is going to be important. Really with public works also, Sister Deborah talked about Greenwich, that curve right there, having them to cut back some of that brush, because we know that places that are not well lit and places that are unkept are breeding ground for dumping areas. So making sure that we are taking care of our throughways, making sure that the trees are cut back, the grass is cut, so people don't come into our communities thinking that they're a dumping area is going to be helpful. And that's what I would propose to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Now I'd like to talk about the West End Mall. There's a new developer on the books. What would you, if elected, like to see happen with development on this site? And Ms. Scott, I'm going to come to you first to answer this question.
Yes, ma'am. So the West End Mall, as part of MPUT, I was the former chair, and one of the things that we worked on was a community benefits agreement for the redevelopment of the mall. And we focused on 3 main points, but one of the things that I would like to see for any new development that comes, in addition to the mall in Atlanta's District 4, is 1, to make sure that we have workforce housing incentives and opportunities. So again, the working class can live where we work and play. Also, a local jobs hiring program within 2 to 5 miles of any new development, including the Mall West End. And then lastly, contracting opportunities for our minority, our Black and our women-owned businesses to make sure that they have an opportunity to participate in the redevelopment efforts, from planning all the way through construction. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight as part of the community benefits program is that we also had a community development fund for legacy businesses to make sure that if there were any legacy or existing businesses that were part of the mall that wanted to be part of the new redevelopment could do so, and that money could be helped for redevelopment efforts.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. I appreciate your answer to that question. Mr. Dozier, your turn, please, sir.
3 words come to mind: transit-oriented development. Mall West End is a stone's throw from the West End MARTA station. And I think a lot about the fact that a lot of our MARTA riders get off to patronize Mall West End. So we need to make sure that we can connect that development to transit, because a lot of people in our community don't have cars, don't own cars. Cars are expensive. In fact, with the most recent census data that came out, the portion of West End that's east of Lawton, south of Oak Street, has the highest rate of residents who don't own a car in all of Metro Atlanta. And we need to recognize that and build that into any plan that happens, because if you drive through there, you see the number of people just trying to cross the street. We got to make it safe for our pedestrians, and that's all I want to see happen. We want to make sure that this can be a regional attraction, and the best way to do that is making sure it's connected to transit.
Very good. Thank you so much. And Mr. Carter.
Yes, I would like to see, as a person who lives from a 4-minute walk to West End, my house is 4 minutes away, I would like to see them invest in infrastructure. So as we build density, we have to make sure that we are invested in infrastructure around to make sure that the streets can maintain and house all the people that will be using them. As Mr. Dozier said, we are a very walkable community. We have about an 83 walking score right now. However, we don't have crosswalks. We don't have, traffic calming devices. And I would like to see those as a part of the development, as well as transient oriented development, because that's super important as a person who used to ride the train every day to work before the pandemic. So I think those things are going to be pivotal in developing our area.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. And Sister Williams, you get the last word on this question.
Will you repeat the question, please?
Yes, the Mall West End, or the West End Mall, has a new developer. What do you want to see happen with this site?
Wow. I was there when it was Sears Robots on the corner. And I would like to see it, first of all, we know that charity starts at home and spreads abroad. And before any new thing comes, I think we need to take the opportunity to clean it up first. We need to clean it up now to make it appealing and attractive. We need to fix up the infrastructure around it. And then we need to light it up to make it safe. It is terrible dark up there. So we need to start there and make it more attractive for whosoever want the opportunity to come in and develop it. But I want to start at home. I want to clean up around it. I want to fix up the infrastructure. And I would like to see the lights done now. I am currently lighting up the West End again after 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. Next question deals with the cost of living in Atlanta and how it has displaced many, many residents. In 2017, a West End bungalow sold for $425,000 in District 4. Now homes sell for as much as $480,000. If elected candidates, what is your plan to keep housing costs more reasonable? And Mr. Dozier, you will be first to answer this question.
So one of the big reasons why housing costs have gotten out of hand is because we don't have enough housing to go around. We need to build more housing. We're building at roughly half the rate that we did 20 years ago. And unfortunately, it makes it harder for families who grew up in neighborhoods like West End or Mechanicsville to stay because they're competing for the same limited housing stock as folks who come in to work for Microsoft or NCR or some of these other companies. So I want to make sure we can build more housing. In my neighborhood alone in Mechanicsville, we have 25 acres of publicly owned land that is sitting vacant. Let's make that more housing for more families to live in. We also need to hold these absentee property owners, these investors accountable for sitting on swaths of land that unfortunately are staying boarded up or attracting mice and other rodents into our communities. They're currently getting fined the bare minimum. So let's make it so that more families can live in these communities. I believe strongly we also have to have more opportunities for renters in our neighborhoods as well, support inclusionary zoning. We have to make it so that more people have an opportunity to live in these new developments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Mr. Carter.
Yes, I believe that density is going to have to be increased in our community. We have to have, as Mr. Dozier said, we have to have more people in our communities right now. When you look at it, we need to really take some of the public land that's owned. Similarly, there's a couple of acres not too far from me here in West End that is undeveloped, right behind the West End library. That's an opportunity to build affordable houses, to have people have access to places that are growing and bustling. And I think the more housing that we have, we can kind of control the cost. And I'm sure we'll talk about taxes a little bit later, because that's another issue that will definitely start to displace people. I'm not sure about other places, but here on my street in West End, a couple that moved in 2018, their taxes were $4,500. In 2020, they were $10,000. So that's more than 100% increase within a 2-year time frame. If we're not careful, we'll lose all of our middle-class people out of the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Ms. Williams.
Okay.
You muted yourself again. Try again.
All right, praise the Lord. That's a wonderful. I definitely disagree with the other two persons. I don't think we need more houses. I don't think we need more housing because we continue to tax people out of their homes. I think we need more business and hold the business accountable for a luxury tax. If you want this, and having more business too will attract more residents. I've got 3 9-unit apartments coming, right? One on each side of me and to me. 9 units. They have just tucked away my skyline. So therefore, I'm going to make this real short. I would like to reform our tax dollars by putting a luxury tax on our business, and so that we don't displace our peoples and tax them out of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. And again, the difference between this type of an event and a debate is that this is a forum, and it is an opportunity for our audience and our citizens to get a sense of where each of you as candidates stand on the various issues that are confronting your community. With you, we will ask respectfully that we not speak of the other candidates. This is your opportunity to share with the voters where you are on these issues, and that way we will not get into the business of trying to offer rebuttals, because that would be in a debate format. This is not a debate format. So thank you for that. Next, Ms. Scott, we are talking about housing costs.
Yes, ma'am. So I believe that affordability is relative to location. I believe that any housing that we have should be affordable, not only for those that have been there, but those that will come. So one of the things that I propose is that we work with our county and we make sure in Fulton County and make sure that our properties are being assessed properly, that it's an incremental taxation, and that it's equitable and fair. Just because someone bought a house or purchased a house for $600,000 or $1 million or whatever the price is, doesn't mean that someone that hasn't done the type of improvements that person did on their house should be assessed at that. I do think that we need zoning updates that will provide equitable housing that's affordable for our working class. And I do think that we need working class incentives that will bring housing opportunities, not only for our citizens, but for our businesses.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Thank you, Ms. Scott. Now, our next question, again, we'd like to hear from you all, District 4 specific. District 4 is home to one of our city's most historic college campuses. And yet the neighborhood that surrounds this campus isn't exactly young adult friendly. What are some of the ideas that you have to make that area more student friendly if you are elected to serve on the Atlanta City Council? And we will go to you, Mr. Carter, with the first response to that question.
Thank you. I've actually been talking to the students in the AUC. One of the first things I would like to do for them is to create a safe way for them to access food and different activities. It's pretty expensive. They end up having to Uber places to get groceries because they choose not to go to the Walmart. So that's been a standing problem, that we don't have access to fresh food in our area. So really working with the developer of West End Mall to bring in a grocery option there so that students and our seniors have access to fresh food. We have the Kroger that's on Cascade as a big box store. That's the only grocery store throughout our district, major grocery store. That's problematic when everywhere else in the city of Atlanta, you can walk a half mile out of your house and walk to a grocery store. We have to change that for our students, making sure they have safe crosswalks, working street lights, focusing on safety, making sure that the AUC police are working with APD to keep the whole of the community safe, including our students.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Next, we will go to Mr. Dozier.
I think firstly, we need to make sure we're including our students and our faculty and our administration in our conversations and our decision-making process. A lot of time they're excluded and we're making decisions around them and about them, but not necessarily including them. And that's been a major focus of our campaign, making sure that not only do we value their voices, but also the makeup of my team includes at least 6 different Atlanta University students from Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark Atlanta University, because we want to make sure that they're included in this process. But partnerships or those positive relationships are only one part of it. We do have to hold some of these institutions themselves accountable. One of the worst property holders that doesn't take care of their land is Morehouse College. We have to make sure that they are investing in their properties or are developing their properties in such a way to enhance the student experience. And I want to make sure that I can use this office or partner with other elected officials to make sure we can do more and advance that so that students have a much better place to study and learn and to be safe. And unfortunately, not enough of that has been happening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Ms. Scott.
Yes, ma'am. So the Atlanta University Center is part of MPUT. So when we talk about them being inclusive, it includes not only the AUC, but the neighborhood, the Atlanta University Center neighborhood. So there is always opportunity, and we pride ourselves on making sure that they are inclusive and part of the decision-making that happens in and around Atlanta University Center. But when we talk about our students, my niece is a sophomore at Clark Atlanta University. And one of the things that I think that we can do better for the Atlanta University Center neighborhood is to make sure that it's safe and it's inviting, that we have sidewalks and street lights that work. Also that we have diverse and stable housing opportunities. Right now, we really don't have a lot of opportunities for our students in regards to housing. And then we want that housing to be affordable. We also want that housing to take care of all ages, demographics, and incomes. And I would like to also advocate for a housing affordability cabinet position to make sure that we're looking at housing choices, not only for AUC, but the neighbors around AUC and throughout District 4.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. Ms. Williams.
Thank you. Repeat the question, please. Thank you.
The question is about the AU Center and the fact that the area surrounding the AU Center is not young adult friendly. What ideas do you have to make the area more student friendly?
That's a wonderful question. I don't know if you all noticed, but about a couple of months ago, ML King was dark for like 2 months in Ashby Streets. All it was a phone call. As your next city councilman, I will make communicate with the staff that has the power to light up that place, first of all, and make it safe. Put in the sidewalks and fix, once again, it needs to be light up to make it safe. There is a law that's called nuisance law. I want to enforce this law. They hang out too much on Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King back down side, north side. If we could get this nuisance law in place, it talks about people hanging out in public places. Lastly, years ago, we started a little protest trying to get the campus closed in. I like to see them have a closed campus. Safety is what we're going to have to do around that college. And it starts with that nuisance law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. My next question is going to begin with Mr. Dozier. We're going to go to some of the more general issues in the campaign, and certainly central in all of the races this year is crime. Crime in Atlanta is at record levels. Last year, 29 murders, 172 shootings, more than 600 aggravated assaults, more than 30 rapes. The numbers were just 255 robberies, and the numbers this year do not look any better. Beginning with you, Mr. Dozier, what solutions do you have as a council person to improve public safety and to reduce crime in our city?
So with the homicide statistics that you shared, I think a lot about an experience that I had last year. A young man was killed right in front of my house, 18 years old. And I think about where the city failed him. I think about where our systems failed him. And I think a lot about what we could have done differently. And one thing I've talked a lot about on the campaign trail is that I believe that public safety shouldn't always be centered around policing. I think that we need safer neighborhoods supported through strategies that broaden our public safety tools, that rethinks the role of policing in our communities, but also allows us to invest in wraparound services centered on social work and community organizing and economic development, intervening in adverse behavior, at the end of the day, providing stability and opportunities for at-risk youth. And I think the fact that our recreation centers have been closed for the last 2 years means that there hasn't been a place for that young man to have gone, to have been safe, to have not been brought into gang life. And I think that there's an opportunity to address that in a meaningful way that doesn't necessarily require us to put a police officer on every block. Policing is a part of that conversation. I recognize that morale and the number of officers that we have is an issue. But I think the way we do policing, the fact that our police officers sit behind their cruisers and go 100 miles an hour down our streets, they don't build relationships with people in our community. So I want to see more foot patrols. I want to see officers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Ms. Scott, your thoughts on crime and how to stop it in our city?
Yes, let me first say that everyone wants to feel safe. And they deserve to feel safe regardless of their income, regardless of where they live. And so, and I also believe that public safety is the role and responsibility of each of us, not just our paid public safety officers. So when we talk about fighting crime, I believe we do need to do an assessment of the city needs based upon data, and then hire the appropriate city staff, and expand our pre-arrest diversion program, add staff to 311, 911, and our officers where it's applicable. We know that poor lighting in our neighborhoods can contribute to crime. So I want to commit to repair and replace the 10,000 street lights that were part of the Atlanta Department of Transportation study with Georgia Tech that are out in our neighborhoods south and west of Interstate 20. Commit to more community policing grants, make sure that we're adding more staffing for code enforcement, and make sure that it works for us. But then also we want to have some workforce housing. I would love to see some of our—
Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. Thank you very much.
Work and play. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I tell you, a minute is not a lot, but you got to jam it all the way in there. Yes. I would be going to Ms. Williams next, but she seems to have dropped off and maybe is reconnecting. So I'm going to come back now and—
I'm back.
Oh, there you are. Yes. We're talking about crime. You have 1 minute.
1 minute to talk about crime. Now, in 1993, I started the West End Neighborhood Association Neighborhood Watch. I got involved with Zone 4. I received 3 of those awards. And once again, you're not going to believe this, that beautification sends a message. When we clean up where we live, it says somebody is watching you. See something, say something. That 3 strikes you out. We work with Zone 4 to get us and a resident office in the West End. Also, bonding the insurance, bonding sort of speak of insurance that when the officers are out on suspensions and things, let's not use taxpayer dollars to for them to benefit while they are being suspension. There's something called I have a plan for that, and also 3 strikes you out for violence, crimes, and offense. Clean it up, fix it up, and let's make some repairs. And that's where safety comes in with crime.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. And we'll give the final thought on this one now to Mr. Carter.
Yes, I believe that we have to work in collaboration. So we have several different police departments that are working throughout the city that do not talk to each other, from Fulton County to MARTA to APD, as well as the various colleges that have full-blown police departments. So we really have to start collaborating there, as well as I agree that we have to fully fund the PAD department, making sure that we are dealing with mental health 24 hours a day and not from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. We really have to start meeting people where they are. What COVID did is kind of like solitary confinement for some people who have mental health issues. And what we're seeing is they're showing up in the world right now in different ways with violent crimes. So dealing with mental health is one thing, but also engaging our children, expanding the At Promise centers. We currently have about 4 throughout the city. We definitely need to expand the At Promise centers that the mayor has opened to make sure that we are engaging the youth in activities to keep them learning and growing, to prepare them for the future and prepare them for job opportunities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Now, I'd like to ask a question about housing and taxes, which has already come up. Too many folks, particularly our residents in communities of color, struggle to find adequate, healthy, and affordable housing. In recent years, many units, 17,000, have been added within the city limits. However, only 3,301 were priced at $1,000 or less. What is your solution to provide more affordable housing in District 4? And more importantly, because we have already talked about this somewhat, how would you protect legacy residents from being priced out of their homes due to rising property taxes? And Ms. Scott, you get the first minute on this question.
Okay, so first of all, I know that the city of Atlanta, well, we know that the city of Atlanta has a housing affordability plan. I think that affordability plan needs to be amended to make sure that it includes all ages, all incomes, and all demographics, and including some plans regarding our unsheltered population, our homeless population. I do support a cabinet position that will deal with housing affordability. I also believe, again, we need to work with our county and how they are assessing our properties within not only Atlanta's District 4, but throughout the city of Atlanta, to make sure that it's fair and that it's equitable, and that if there will be some property increases, that they will be incremental. I also believe that we have a housing opportunity bond fund that can be utilized to help with repairs for our existing and legacy residents to utilize, and to make sure that the senior property tax freeze exemptions are working for our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. Ms. Williams, it's your turn.
Yes, ma'am. Wow. Affordable housing. How do we keep people in their home? Affordable housing, to me, it is really a joke, because I was trying to afford houses when I was 33 years old. I was told I had to make 3 times my rent, my mortgage, in order to afford a house. That was a lot of money, and we need to reform that definition to find out what is affordable in 2021. I recommend that everybody that has an income should be able to have a house, and we call that income-based houses. It don't have to look like housing projects no more. I've worked with Atlanta Housing Authority, the Land Trust, and HUD. I'm currently a housing program. Affordable housing, income-based housing would be 35%, most people $700 a month. And then I would like to do a campground for homeless people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. Mr. Carter.
Yes, here in 1993 in District 4, we had the first mixed income development done over in Centennial Place. So really looking at the history of our district, we can move forward with that. When we talk about affordable housing, making sure that we're specific about families also, because some of the development that has happened in District 4, the affordable housing, they'll build a senior tower and then market rate towers, which leave families out of accessing affordable housing. So we have to make sure that we're specific in our ask of developers. When we talk about our legacy residents in Muskogee County in Georgia, working with the state legislator to change our tax break to freeze the taxes like they have in Muskogee County based off a purchase price instead of market rate. The market is going up. People are buying houses at rates that they have bought them before at 700,000. So we're going to have the tax income. We just have to make sure we insulate our people who've been here before. We don't want to price out our middle class people either. So we want to make sure everybody can live in the city.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Mr. Dozier.
Like I said before, we need to build more housing. We need to get more housing units online. We need to reduce red tape so that we can get more housing units built more quickly. It shouldn't take 2 to 3 to 4 months to get permits through City Hall just so you can build a single family 2-story house. That'd have been a fourth of the time if you're building that same house in Sandy Springs or Decatur. I also believe that land use and zoning laws need to be updated and changed to allow for greater density. Like I said before, we're all competing for a very limited stock of housing, and that drives up the cost of housing for everybody. Not everybody wants to live in a 2,500 square foot house. Not everybody wants to live in a 600 unit apartment building in Midtown. So let's build that missing middle so we can help more people get into homes. And directly for our legacy residents, I support an idea that has been used successfully in the Northeast called circuit breakers. The idea is that once a homeowner's property taxes exceeds a certain percentage of their household gross income, that homeowner is entitled to tax relief, and that can work on top of the existing exemptions that we have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Now I have another question. We're talking about housing. Let's talk about those people who rent, and let's talk about the eviction process. The process is super swift. A renter could be forced from their home by missing a single payment, and the rates in Atlanta are among the worst. How do you plan to help these Atlanta residents, these Atlanta renters, stay in their homes after the eviction moratoriums have been completely exhausted and have expired? And Ms. Williams, Sister Williams, I will begin with you.
Having sat on the Atlanta Housing Authority board, I think we're gonna have to educate the tenants. It's gonna have to be some teaching on economics and how much, economic spending. I think we're gonna have to educate them. We're gonna have to create more jobs, opportunities for them. We're gonna have to work with the wages of a living wage and not a working wage. We're gonna have to really help these people. And that's where I would start, on a working wage, aiding them on economic development, what we all took in high school, and finding them some income-based housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Carter.
Yes, I think with evictions, we're really going to have to start lean in and educate people about the services that the city has available. What happens a lot of times in the city is we have great services, but we don't tell the people about them, so they don't use them, and then we lose the funding. So using the federal funding that we currently have to really lean in and help the people stay in the places they are, and then educate them about other opportunities as far as affordable housing, really working to make sure that there is affordable housing that is 30% of their income, opposed to paying 40 and 50% of their income for a place to live. Making sure that we're really gonna have to look at something as rents rise, of some type of renter incentive. Either we're gonna have to give an incentive to the landlord who are renting to people who are making 30 to 80% AMI, or covering portions of it. A single bedroom is $1,500 to $2,500 a month, which is not sustainable. Thank you.
You very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Mr. Dozier.
So this is actually an issue that is near and dear to my heart. I've gone through the eviction process. I've been evicted. I've been thrown out on the streets. We lost our home of 16 years. And honestly, that experience is a big reason why I ended up joining the Army at the height of the Iraq War. And my time in the military was my financial salvation. But I don't think that people should have to sacrifice life and limb to have a fighting chance to survive in a city like Atlanta. And so we need stronger renter protections, stronger tenant protections. Tenants deserve due process. Oftentimes, tenants are evicted without just cause. We need to make sure that we have limits to the grounds in which a landlord may evict a tenant. And this is not to say that tenants who aren't taking care of the property or who do damage to the property or violating the terms of their lease shouldn't be evicted, but often that's not what's happening, especially in this current housing market. So I want to make sure that we can support the legal rights of our tenants and support our tenants' ability to organize. I've been a proud supporter of the Housing Justice League. I've been a proud supporter of 2 different tenant associations in my neighborhood in Mechanicsville. I also want to make sure that—
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Thank you very much. Ms. Scott, you get the last word on this one.
Yeah, so what I would do, right now we have a $100 million housing opportunity bond fund that I would like to see monies from that be utilized to help with our renters and any eviction issues or costs that they may have incurred because of for whatever reason. We're in a pandemic, they lost their job, they were furloughed. Also, I would like to see a dedicated general obligation fund, another bond fund to be dedicated for housing and for issues like this. And then lastly, those funds can be utilized for not only our tenants, but for our landlords. We have some landlords out here that are good landlords that can't pay their mortgage because their tenants can't pay their rent. And so I do think that those monies, whether it's a dedicated funding source or the Housing Opportunity Bond, should be able to be utilized for not only our tenant to provide relief, but for our landlords as well.
Ms. Scott, thank you very much. I'd like to talk now about transportation. An expanded regional transportation network is critical in keeping Metro Atlanta economically competitive. If elected to the City Council, how would you improve mobility and transportation in the city? And for this question, we will begin with Mr. Carter.
Yes, the first thing I would talk about, I talk about it often, is collaboration. We have three different sources handling transportation, really focusing in on more MARTA and holding them accountable. We really have to go where the need is. So expanding transit and rail on the Camden corridor first, making sure that we complete the Beltline transit so that families everywhere can have access. There was a man on 11 Alive who walked the hour to work because it took 2 hours to take the bus to get to work. Nobody should have to go through that in the city of Atlanta. We have to make sure that we are expanding, whether it be, rapid buses, transit, light rail. We have to use different ways, and then also tapping into different funding sources to make sure that we are able to fund those things fully and in the areas that need them the most. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Mr. Dozier, we're talking about transit.
Yeah. So one of the things that I bring up often is the fact that 40% of our residents in Southwest Atlanta, not specifically District 4, but Southwest Atlanta in general, don't own a car, don't have access to a car, and rely on walking to get to wherever they need to go, walk to the store, take their kids to school, walk to daycare. And then they rely on MARTA to get to jobs all the way out in Alpharetta or in Decatur or in Clayton County. And unfortunately, often, it's not a very dignified experience for people in our communities. Many of our neighborhoods don't have sidewalks. Many of our neighborhoods don't have crosswalks. Many of our bus stops are just a pole in the dirt. So when it's raining or if it's muddy, it just becomes an undignified experience, an unsafe experience. And when you look at crash data, unfortunately, where pedestrians are more likely to be hit by a car or killed, is in our Black and brown communities. I was one of those people. I got hit by a car 5 years ago and had to go to Grady. And unfortunately, people on our side of town are being negatively impacted. So I want to make sure that we build new sidewalks. We have $2.5 million dedicated to transportation improvements in District 4 specifically that I want to spend to slow cars down, make it safe for our kids and our seniors to move around.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Ms. Scott?
Yes, ma'am. Before we can talk about transit, we need to make sure that it's clean and safe and we have accessibility to and from our train stations and to MARTA and to our bus stops. So my first priority would be our infrastructure. We need safe sidewalks. We need passable sidewalks. We need street lights that work. We need safe streets for all. We need repairs to our streets and we need to fix our potholes. And then when we get to our train stations, obviously we need to be working with MARTA. We need to make sure that they have short-term and long-term capital improvement projects for our stations. And then we want to make sure that we encourage more transit-oriented development that's equitable, but also meeting community needs. So if somebody is coming off MARTA, they can go to their housing, but also they have a grocery store where they can shop. So that's what I would do in regards to transit and transportation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. Sister Williams, you get the last word on transportation.
Well, praise the Lord once again. I remember when bus fare was like 25 and 40, 65 cents. So in this pandemic and before the pandemic, people were complaining that the bus fare had gone up. It takes $5 to get a round trip somewhere. Most people don't have that. I'm thinking, let's look at right now for a season anyway to just reduce some of the bus fares. Also, expand the service. They just recently put the service back in Clayton County, expanding the services. And once again, the infrastructure where people can actually walk and bike if they would like to local places. And that's when I decided to help put in the first sidewalks so that people can walk to the West End Mall. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to move into a new category. And again, this is the League of Women Voters Community Forum for the Atlanta City Council race District 4. All of the candidates were invited to participate. One candidate accepted the invitation to participate and is ill this evening and is not here. The incumbent candidate in this race did not respond to the invitation to participate. I'd like to ask you all now about jobs, because jobs, we lead the region in job growth, but so many of the good jobs aren't getting filled. More than half of jobs available in Metro Atlanta, in the city specifically, require at least a 4-year bachelor's degree, while only 35% of residents over the age of 25 have one. What, if elected, would be your solution to help break the cycle of underskilled, low-paying employment that so many city residents face today? And the person who is going to get that question first will be Mr. Dozier.
Yeah, so one of the things I want to make sure, absolutely make sure happens is any company that comes to the city of Atlanta that takes city money through Invest Atlanta needs to guarantee local hiring and needs to make sure that it's hiring people from our communities at all levels, whether it's managers, whether it's entry level. We have to use that as our cudgel, or not as our tool, as our hammer, to make sure that we can get our people hired. Separately, I want to make sure that we're leveraging our existing facilities and resources. I talked earlier about our recreation centers in terms of youth development, but adult learning, adult education should also be accessible for people through our recreation centers. If people want to learn a skill, learn how to code, learn robotics, learn how to even look for work in the first place and write a resume, they should have a safe place to do it. And that's we have the facilities. Lastly, we need to reform the Atlanta Workforce Development Authority. I think it's a WorkSource Atlanta now. It has not done our city any good service. I want to make sure that gets reformed so that it's actually doing the work to link our residents to jobs that are available to them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Now, Ms. Scott.
Yes, ma'am. So first of all, I would like to encourage and make sure that we have vocational programs and apprenticeship programs that actually start in high school. Because what I found is that everyone is not wanting to go or can't afford to go to college. So we want to make sure that we have those apprenticeship programs and those journeyman license and certifications available for our youth and our young adults when we talk about workforce opportunities. I want to continue to be the biggest supporter of APS. And so I would like to continue to support and make sure that we not only have mentorships, but internships available for our youth, for our college students, for our young adults with the business community. Because as a proud graduate of Atlanta Public Schools, I know that opportunities bring success. And then lastly, what I talked about with the CBA, with the local hiring program, that needs to be part of any new development, but as well as part of any city contracts, and especially if we're getting tax incentives or giving away tax incentives to developers. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much for that answer. Now, Ms. Williams, it is your turn.
Thank you. I currently operate a nonprofit, which is a workforce development housing, reentry housing for the city of Atlanta. I have been funded for the city of Atlanta for the last 25 years in my reentry housing program. I put the housing piece in place first, and then what I discovered was that in some life skills. Getting jobs was just not enough. If you look up our mission, it stands for Resource Education Development, Employment, Empowerment Opportunities. So therefore, as we move forward with workforce development, we give them a place to stay. We give them a new life skill. We mentor them with these new life skills. We give them internships. Once again, that's what workforce is, a part of earning while you live at a particular place. Increase the living wage, not the minimum wage. And at that particular time, I think we will be okay. Each one would teach one. Yes, more internships, more workforce development.
Thank you very
and
much.
increase the
Thank
living
you very
wage.
much
Thank
for
you.
that answer. I appreciate that. And now, Mr. Carter.
Yes, I think we need to really lean into the things we already have established. We have Westside Works, you know, with construction ready. In 20 days, they can get somebody 8 certifications to work in construction, and they get them placed into jobs working in the city, major jobs that are working in the city. You know, leaning into places like that and the nonprofits that are doing the work already to give people life skills. The thing about it is educating people what's available. Most people don't know that at 18 years old, you can go and become a fireman and make $40,000 at 18. You know, we have to make sure these opportunities that we have available in the city that people know about them. I think one of the greatest injustice that's being done is the lack of education. I think when the trash days changed, there was a large campaign to make sure that everybody knew that their trash day changed. So when we're talking about employing people, we need to make sure that we do a large campaign to educate them of how to get back to work in a living wage.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Talking about working and living wages. If elected, what ideas do you have to help those persons in our city who are experiencing homelessness? And Ms. Scott, you're first to get this question.
Yes, ma'am. So earlier I mentioned the city's housing affordability plan. I'm amazed that that plan that they've worked on for the amount of time that they worked on does not include a plan for our unsheltered population. It does not include a plan to provide housing, permanent housing for all ages and demographics. And so I want to ensure that we have a plan that's in place. When we talk about housing for our unsheltered population, we can't talk about housing in our homelessness or our unsheltered population without talking about incomes. So I want to make sure that we actually have, again, a local hiring program on any new developments, but also that is tied to WorkSource Atlanta. When I was working with the city of Atlanta, we went from not having a foreman or a superintendent on a job to actually getting them hired because we wrote it into our contract and into our services. So I want to make sure that we have those type of programs in place when we talk about WorkSource, but we also talk about employing our homeless population. Thank you.
I thank you very much. I appreciate that answer. Sister Williams, what do you do to help ideas for people who are experiencing homelessness in the city?
Thank you. People who are experiencing homeless in the city, what do I do for an ideal? My ideal first is to make room for them in my reentry housing program. Secondly, I bring them in and I use every resource I have there to try to find them the necessary services that they need, whether it be housing, food, or clothing, a job. We pretty much take care of services on a minimum level, but we're also tapped into the United Way. I have a long list of resources that we are already tapped in, and that's what we will be using them. First of all, we evaluate them. We try to find out what they really need. And from that point on is that, what would Jesus do? We see a need, we supply the need, and we use the resources that are in place. I don't have any fancy word. I'm a simple woman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Now, Mr. Carter.
When dealing with our unsheltered population, I think it's going to be really important to provide housing. And I think that should be spread throughout the districts, throughout the city. You know, it's not one district or one place population where everyone should be housed. I think we should have centers for housing, as well as Mercy Care coming to make sure that they're getting the healthcare they need, getting the mental health services they need, providing food and shelter, and then job training, making sure that they are whole people. When I taught in Atlanta Public Schools, that was one of the things that we had to make sure, because some of my students were experiencing homelessness, and to make sure that they feel safe, secure first before teaching them anything. We have to make sure we give them a home base. And I think that's going to be a pivotal part of changing the dynamic and making homeless population thrive in the city.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Mr. Dozier, last word on this issue.
I agree with what was said. I believe strongly in housing first policies. If folks have a permanent address, they have a roof over their head, it makes it easier to provide them with services that they need, whether it's with mental health, whether it's drug addiction or drug abuse, or being able to get back on their feet and find employment. In fact, on our neighborhood next door in Summerhill, the city of Atlanta partnered with a hotel that was underoccupied during the pandemic to make sure our homeless population had a place to stay. And I want to see more partnerships like that as well. Beyond that, though, we have to decriminalize homelessness in the city of Atlanta. We have to make sure that folks who have mental health issues or drug addiction issues aren't criminalized in the way they've been. Unfortunately, we have laws in the books that say it's illegal to transport household goods at night. We have laws in the books about urban camping. We have laws in the books about loitering. We have laws in the books about jaywalking. Unfortunately, these things unnecessarily criminalize our homeless or unsheltered population. I want to see that change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Atlanta is known as a city in a forest. And in the last few days, last few weeks, we've all heard about the new police training facility that has been adopted by council. But one of the issues associated with this new facility is its location, and that it is the last undisturbed green space inside of I-285. What, if elected, are your proposals to keep Atlanta's natural greenery? And Sister Williams, we will begin with you.
Keep Atlanta natural greens. I wouldn't start with building more houses on. We have a problem with, I have rabbits, I have deers on Hopkins Street. Moving the green space in their natural habitat has caused innocent, animals to be homeless as well. But at the end of the day, to keep the green space that we have as an urban farmer, I would provide something new, something sustainable. I have a fruit orchard park. I have a community garden in a city park. I have a small urban farm on abandoned and blighted lots. So we could use these spaces really for a healthier program and sustainable program as a food resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Williams. Mr. Carter.
Yes, looking at the One Atlanta plan, I would definitely work as far as sustainability goes. We've been increasing green space with the parks and recreation. As far as Cop City, I don't think that should be built there. I just think that was in poor taste and it was rushed, and I think it should be given more time. The citizens spoke out against it. They don't want it there. So we should police definitely need a top-notch center, but just not there. We can leave that green space as is and find another place in the city to use that. I just think that's not a good use of the space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Mr. Dozier.
So the way I look at it, at least in the light of the Old Atlanta Prison Farm, first, we have to adhere to the rules and regulations and the vision that we put in place. We identified the Old Atlanta Prison Farm as a conservation corridor, as a place to grow our green space, to preserve our natural habitats, to be park space. And we went against that by voting on the vote we made a couple weeks ago with the police training facility. So that's the first thing I would do, is make sure we adhere to these visions that we are spending a lot of money and time and energy and effort to produce. Separately, as the co-chair of the Entrenchment Creek Community Stewardship Council, an environmental justice organization, has been fighting in South Atlanta for the last 1.5 to 2 years, wanting to make sure that the city has stronger ordinances to do more to protect our green space, make sure developers are paying into funds that we can use to expand our green space across the city. And finally, we need to make sure that we are investing in maintenance for our existing green space. A lot of our parks, we have all these philanthropic dollars that build new parks, but we don't do enough to maintain them. And so that's why many of our parks, you go, there's trash all over the place. We don't have enough staff members to actually keep them up in the way they should be. So I want to make sure that happens as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Ms. Scott.
Yes, ma'am. So with the old Atlanta Prison Farm being utilized as a police training facility, I believe in the concept, but not the location. I believe that community engagement is important. And I believe that that project and that process deserved more community engagement and input. When we talk about the preservation, the sustainability of our green space, that's very important to me. We've been working in the AUC, the Atlanta University Center, to make sure that we have not only preservation and sustainability of green space, but we're actually making sure that we have stormwater management processes in place for new development. So I want to also increase the Parks and Rec budget to make sure that not only we're preserving our green space, but we're making our parks and our green space to be functional amenities for our communities to be able to enjoy.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. Researchers find that most students, and I'm sure you all know this, need to read proficiently by the end of third grade if they're going to be successful with their future studies and also in their careers. In Atlanta, only 4 out of 10 third graders are hitting that mark. How do you plan to work, if elected, with the Atlanta Public Schools to make sure that this next generation of Atlanta residents are prepared to live successful lives? And Mr. Carter, I will begin with you.
And rightfully so, as a former educator in the city of Atlanta, I definitely can speak to this. I was presented at Outstanding Atlanta, and I sat beside the executive director of the school board, and we talked about it. Really making sure that bias training for teachers, a lot of times it starts with teachers understanding the ability and believing in the students that they are teaching. In the city of Atlanta, we definitely see that sometimes. We just have to believe in our students and give them as many opportunities as possible. And on council, what I would do is work with the city of Atlanta to get some of our philanthropic partners in there. In District 4 alone, the aquarium is a large opportunity they have all types of programming, and our schools don't go. Schools are bused in from all over in the schools here in the District 4. Dr. Brian, he is one of the only African-American executive directors of aquariums in the United States. We should take advantage of our partners and use them in education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Dozier.
So one of the things that I think a lot about is that if you are at risk of eviction or displacement, if you hear gunshots at night, if you hear people arguing in the street, if you're hungry, it is very hard to learn in those environments. And I think that's where City Council has the strongest and best opportunity to address young people's ability to learn in the schoolhouse in terms of day-to-day operations. But we do need partnerships with APS. We do need to grow those partnerships. Too often, the city and APS have been operating in silos, and I want to change that. One thing I've been talking about recreation centers all night. I'll talk about them again here. If we keep our recreation centers open, if we have a safe and secure place for our students to go to after school, we can help expand and enrich our students' learning. The fact that we have a number of nonprofits across the city of Atlanta providing music classes, robotics classes, working with teaching kids how to be broadcast journalists with Voxa ATL. We have the facilities. Let's open them up. Let's open them up to our students, and let's open them up to our communities. And I think partnerships in that way, we can have a direct pipeline to making sure we can bolster the education that people have in the classroom.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. We'll now turn to Ms. Kim Scott.
So I think one of the things that I would do as our next Atlanta City Council member, number one, housing. We have to stabilize our housing for not only our families of APS, but just the residents of City of Atlanta overall. Washington cluster, the Booker T. Washington cluster, APS cluster, is in Atlanta's District 4. We have a 40% turnover rate right now, which means that we lose 40% of our kids within one school year due to various reasons. But we know a lot of that is due to housing and just the instability of housing. So I want to make sure that we have that housing opportunity bond fund finance so that we can help with stabilizing our housing and providing more housing opportunities. We have a dedicated general obligation bond fund for housing. And one of the things that I did, we started Education Pod. We need more partnerships with our business community to make sure that we are providing opportunities for our kids to be successful, and just our mentorships and our internships as well. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. And Ms. Williams.
Could you repeat the question, please?
If elected to the City Council, how are you going to work with APS to make sure that this next generation of kids are prepared to be successful adults?
Well, I'm kind of like already working with the PATH program. And what that does, it allows me the opportunity to take their referrals and offer resources that they need to stabilize the family, the household, looking at the whole household. I know if a man don't work, he's gonna steal something. A man don't work, he can't eat. We're gonna have to bring to creating entrepreneurships. The youth want entrepreneurships. I've been working since I was 9 years old. Entrepreneurships, creating jobs and giving them an income, then they could afford a house, because they can't afford a house if they don't have incomes. Working with the police to do that is engage them into the program like the PATH program so that they too can identify what's really going on in the household first. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. Now, I wanted to ask you all about the young men that we see around the city selling water. Lots of organizations in the community are working very hard to provide these young men some guidance, especially the ones who are genuinely entrepreneurial. However, some of these kids aren't entrepreneurs. What solutions do you have to expand youth services, especially for this group of young people? I would like to go to Mr. Dozier to begin.
So we need to reopen and restart the summer youth programs, the mayor's hiring program and other programs that we've had for decades that have unfortunately in recent years been underfunded, understaffed. In fact, I was talking to a parent a couple months ago, and they had only hit about 25% of their hiring goals because they didn't have enough staff to really get kids into the jobs that the kids wanted to do. And so what happens is these young people find other ways to make money. And so having more opportunities like that, connecting them with, I know it was said before, and it's something I agree with wholly, is showing that there are other or better ways to make money and partnering with our existing businesses so that we can provide internships or mentorships so that young people have an opportunity to succeed early on and see what success looks like. I think is the way to go. I do think we also need to support and empower and amplify the good work that is already being done with Water Boys in general. The organization Helping Empowering Our Youth is doing a lot of phenomenal work across the city. And unfortunately, like any nonprofit, resources can be slim. And I think there's an opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Thank you very much. Ms. Scott.
So one of the things that we know is it's not safe. It's not safe where they're actually selling water. A lot of times they're selling water off the entrance or exit ramps of our major highways and interstates. So first of all, we need to get them into a safe place. And again, I want to advocate and make sure that we have our recreational facilities not only open, but programming that allows for more STEM opportunities, more entrepreneurship opportunities, because those are the places not only where they'll be safe, but they can get the resources and the opportunities that they need to be successful in life. I want to also make sure that we have a stronger partnership with our business community. HAY is a wonderful organization, but they need more business partners to provide jobs for our youth. And so number one, safety, but number two, partnership. And number three, making sure that we have the recreation facilities open so that they have the opportunities to be successful.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. Sister Williams, expanding youth services and helping young men like the ones who are selling water on the streets. Unmute yourself, please, Sister Williams.
I'm the founder of the Mother Clyde Memorial West End Garden, the City of Atlanta First Community Garden. We took that garden on an abandoned piece of property because right in front of it was where boys sold drugs all the time. She was 97 years old. She didn't want to see another boy selling drugs. They sold drugs and now they're selling water. Because they wanted the lifestyles of the drug boys. We submitted for a neighborhood funding grant. We got it for 5 years to train them how to work for what they want. Just simple stuff. You want to work for what? When I say entrepreneurship, I sold freeze cup. I sold candy in the hall. I ain't saying it's right. I ain't saying it's wrong. But I'm out of 11 children. And sometimes my household came short of the things that we need. I figured I'd help my mother, and I think that's what they want to do. They want to help their household. We just got to educate them on how to do it. They can become a small business if we help them create more after-school programs, mini pocket resource centers where they can go and get the resource they need in education on how to become young entrepreneurs. Thank you. May God bless.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. And Mr. Carter, you get the last thought on this last question.
Yes, I had an opportunity to have a quote unquote water boy cut my grass, and I had an opportunity to take him home. What we don't realize is a lot of these kids are in foster care. So DFACS, if we could work with DFACS to really help get some of the students that are in the system into some jobs, because everybody doesn't have a parent. That's a privilege. You know, everybody doesn't have that access. So making sure that we are also not forgetting those children that live in our city who don't have parents, and their foster care parents aren't really stepping up to the challenge totally and engaging them in helpful ways. So reaching out to DFACS and working with them, as well as the At Promise centers, expanding, because they need to make money. And that's the part of it, is it's about making money. It's an economic thing more so than anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Now, I know that our audience has been invited to provide questions for these candidates for the District 4 City Council seat. I want to ask Kathy Carpenter if there are any other questions that need to be asked of these candidates.
Candace will actually be me. Sorry about that.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay. So yes, we do have 2 questions that are in the chat. One would you support an ordinance that would mandate every City of Atlanta contract to allocate a percentage of jobs for that project to local residents? That's the first question. And sorry, who did we leave off with?
You will want to pick up here with Mr. Dozier.
Okay, Mr. Dozier, start with you with that question.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe I mentioned that earlier, that we have to hold these businesses accountable. We spend billions of dollars to attract companies from the Bay Area, from Chicago, from the Northeast to come to Atlanta. Their employees come here and they bring up our prices. We have to get something in return. And that means making sure that they hire locally at the end of the day. One of the things I think about a lot is if you go to Invest Atlanta's website right now, you'll see something like $2.5 billion of economic impact, $700 million in total capital investments for 2021 alone. But we've given out 5 small business loans. I feel like Invest Atlanta's priorities aren't in the best interest of our existing residents, our existing businesses, our existing institutions. And I want to change that. And absolutely, we need to be hiring locally or requiring companies that move here to hire locally.
Thank you, Mr. Dozier. We'll go on to Ms. Scott.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. City contracts used to have a mandate that not only you hire locally, but you actually have local businesses as part of every contract. So I want to see both of those back, because those are ways that not only you can help with economic development by hiring locally, but you can also help small businesses be a part of this contract and then provide jobs for their employees as well. We also need to make sure when we're talking about hiring locally, again, not just only on city contracts, but on private development. So we need to make sure that with our community benefits agreement, that local hiring program and preference is part of any new private developments as well in our community and in Atlanta's District 4.
Thank you so much for that answer, Ms. Scott. Ms. Williams, the question to you.
Thank you. The city contracts. We always hear during election year, candidates talk about where we want, and I've said it, and I actually do it. I live on Hopkins Street. I work on Hopkins Street. I play on Hopkins Street in the city of Atlanta First Community Garden. I made a statement back in 2012, Atlantans for Atlantans. We continue to sell out our city, our country, jobs, and push out our small business. Atlanta's first. And you can understand and read between the lines what I'm saying when it comes to contracts. Atlanta's first. Let's give some incentives to small business that want to start a business and live in the community. That will also increase our economic development. But we keep everybody but Atlanta's. I stand behind Atlanta's first, and let's once again reforming some of our city contracts to make them is it easy or accessible to help us understand the process in the procurement department.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Mr. Carter?
Yes, I do agree with Sister Deborah. I think that we should streamline the procurement process to make it more attainable, just like with the Gulch Project, having 38% of minority and women businesses get the business. Another piece of the Gulch Project that I would like to see in other projects is the $20 million that was put forth for affordable housing anywhere throughout the city. I want to make sure that we are doing things like that, because that can help District 4, using part of that $20 million to build out our part of the city that's been underserved. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. And we're going to continue a little bit more still with about contracts. Second part of this question was, would you be willing to create an ordinance, mandate, or policy that reestablishes or establishes set aside contracts for minority-owned businesses in the city of Atlanta? And that goes to start with Ms. Scott.
Yes, right now we already have a set aside for minority, Black, and woman-owned businesses. Over a certain amount, you actually have to be a joint venture. I believe it's still $5 million, and I want to make sure that we include that, but also the set asides for the general contractor, but for the subcontractors as well, because again, we're creating business opportunities for our smaller companies that may not have been able to compete on the bigger level with the general contractors. So yes, I do believe in set asides, and I do think that percentage needs to be increased based upon the dollar value of the contract, because a lot of times we do not really push forward the opportunity for the smaller guys to get a piece of the pie, especially when we talk about our big city contracts.
Thank you so much, Ms. Scott. Back to you, Ms. Williams.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Would you be willing to create an ordinance, mandate, or policy that reestablish or establishes set-aside contracts for minority-owned businesses in the city of Atlanta?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, yes, yes. I am considered a minority business. I'm a woman. I am African American and I am small business. I've been in business for 30 years and during those times I've struggled, but I've survived. Uh, I would support that minority. I would support um, reforming the whole contract. I've gone through procurement workshop with the grading system. I'm a vendor for the city of Atlanta. It's very hard. We got to start once again with education knowledge to the people. When I proposed to put a small resource center in a pocket on the south and north side of all the communities, that meaning also bringing in agency that could speak to us about the opportunities and giving us knowledge to empower ourselves. And when we get that knowledge, we can break the cycle of poverty for ourselves. That's what the small base resource center would do. Say yes, educate us.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
Mr. Carter?
Yes,
Question to
I
you.
would definitely want to reestablish the set asides, definitely giving access to small and minority businesses. I think that's going to be a pivotal part of growing locally owned businesses with all of the growth that we have with big companies coming in. This is a way that our hometown can grow more and more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to you, Mr. Dozer.
Yes, I do. I will also add that one of the challenges with ensuring that we can grow or expand our minority-owned businesses is that many of the opportunities for the existing minority-owned businesses to get involved require a greater deal of capital than many currently have on hand, which locks out many of our companies, many of our firms. And so I think about our big development deals, right? 300 acres for Fort McPherson, 70 acres for Turner Field. The Gold Steel, these are millions of dollars of investment. And unfortunately, many of our local businesses get locked out and have to be subcontractors, don't get to play because they don't have enough capital. So I would love to see, especially when it involves the sale or redevelopment of public land, to have these minority-owned businesses, particularly these smaller businesses, in mind when these deals happen. I want to see land get subdivided so that smaller contractors, who have $150,000 in capital to be able to be involved versus having to have millions or billions of dollars in capital to be involved. And we have to change that dynamic as well so we can support our local, smaller minority-owned businesses.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dozer. And then we have one more question. Do you support the end of single family zoning citywide? And that starts off with Ms. Williams.
I'm not much of a speaker. I'm a worker. And I'm what people call a workaholic. So I must apologize. I'm sitting here thinking about all the things I have to do tomorrow. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Do you support the end of single family zoning citywide?
A single family zoning citywide. Do
you support the end of it?
The end of.
Do you support the end of single family zoning citywide?
Well, I'm going to say yes, because whosoever will, let them come. And you can only go where you can afford to stay. And so we're going to have to go back to make sure people can live where they want to live, not just because I don't have much money to live over here. But yeah, I say yes. And I'm going to have to do a little research on that. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. To you, Mr. Carter.
Yes, I do support ending the single family zoning citywide, but I think to do it in zones. So basically doing our high traffic thoroughways first that can support more density, and then working into neighborhoods doing quadruplex and triplex, different types. When we talk about in the single family homes, it can look so many different ways. So really being strategic about placing it where we're not necessarily changing the character of communities, but we're just making sure that more people can be a part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carter. Mr. Dozer.
I support expanding housing choice to more residents. And what that means is allowing for duplexes and triplexes and garden style apartments to be built. Right now, unfortunately, too often that is not possible. And I will say in the city of Atlanta, it used to be possible in many of our existing quote unquote single family housing neighborhoods. And so I support restoring what used to be. A lot of our existing zoning laws tied to single family housing were put in place to prevent Black people, to prevent poor people, to prevent people with large families from moving into our established communities. And I want to change that. I want to take things back to what they used to be. West End had 20,000 residents in 1970, and today is only 5,000 residents. And a big part of that is a lot of what used to be duplexes or triplexes, or even 3 or 4 unit apartment buildings are now converted into single family homes. And so we've lost a lot of our density. We're just trying to bring back what we used to have. I don't think it's going to necessarily change the character of our neighborhoods, because that's who we are, or who we were as a city, and we should bring that back.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dozier. And then Ms. Scott.
So yes, ma'am. No, I do not support eliminating single family zoning housing. I do believe that District 4 has the unique possibility and opportunity to provide housing for all incomes, all ages, and all demographics, and that's what I support. I also support making sure that we update our zoning codes, that we don't do all right out zoning rewrite that doesn't have neighborhood and community input. I think it's very important for our communities and our neighborhoods to know actually what's coming in our neighborhoods. And just because we are wanting to increase our housing choices and availability does not mean that it's going to be affordable. So we need to make sure that we are increasing our housing stock, and that is for our working class, and that is diverse, and that it has neighborhood and community input. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Scott. Ms. Presley, that's all the community questions that we have.
And we want to say thank you to the community for submitting those questions, and say thank you to the candidates for asking those questions. We are now about 4 minutes away from the conclusion of our program. This was now the opportunity for each of the candidates to deliver a 1-minute appeal, a closing statement. And Deborah Williams, Ms. Williams, we will begin with you for your 1-minute closing statement.
Praise the Lord, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. As I said earlier, I am Evangelist Sister Deborah Williams. I'm an ordained minister for 30 years. When people ask, about Sister Deborah, well, you think about Sister Deborah, first thing they say, I'm a troublemaker. But I thank John Lewis, who took his last word and said he made good troubles. That did something to me. I am not a troublemaker. I speak out. I work hard. I get the job done. I'd rather go to work and do what I need to do while I'm waiting on somebody to bring me something. It says better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I don't mean to run over anybody. I am an individual. I am a woman of God. I like to go to church, and I like to wear. As your next city councilman, we already know we're all saying the same thing. It's the same flavor with a different label. That nothing has been done in 28 years. I started in 1993 this race. As your next city councilman, I will work to reduce crime, reduce taxes, house the homeless, and create jobs for the unemployment.
Thank you very, very much.
God bless.
God bless. Thank you so much. And now we will go to Ms. Kim Scott. You have a minute to make your close.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to be here tonight and to share my vision as our next Atlanta City Council member. I've been working in the community 15 years now. Atlanta's District 4 deserve more. I believe we deserve better. And I believe I am that positive change to bring about a better District 4 in the city of Atlanta. Again, I've been working in the community for 15 years now. I am a past employee and project director and engineer with the city of Atlanta, so I know local government. On day one, I don't need on-the-job training. I've been fighting for this community and advocating for this community to get things done, have gotten things done, have proven results. And so I want to serve us on a greater level. So if you believe in a positive change, I would love to be that positive change as our next Atlanta City Council member. And you can visit my website for more information, kimscottatl.com, to volunteer, to donate, to sign up, and to help me on November 2nd be the next Atlanta City Council member for Atlanta District 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. We appreciate your closing statement. And now, Mr. Dozier, you have a minute to close.
I'm Jason Dozier. Some of you are new to our communities, and some of you might remember my name from when I ran for this same position, for this same office, against the same incumbent just 4 years ago. And a lot has happened in the last 4 years. Gun violence has gotten worse. Our streets have become less safe. Basic services like trash pickup have become less reliable. It takes weeks or months to get permits from City Hall, and many of our neighbors are being displaced as we speak. So while a lot has happened in the last 4 years, I will say that while I'm a little older, while I'm a little balder, while I'm a little bigger around the waist, I'm the same Jason Dozier that took our incumbent to a runoff for the first time in her 30-year career on Atlanta City Council. I'm the same Jason Dozier that came just 200 votes short of winning and cementing a better future for our district and for our communities and for our city. And I'm the same Jason Dozier that's fighting for our families and institutions that built Atlanta, that built Asheville Heights and Venetian Hills and Oakland City and Mechanicsville and West End. We can deliver change, but we can't do it without your help. Get involved at votedozier.com. It's my website, but it's also a call to action. Together, we can build a better Atlanta for our kids and for our grandkids. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. And finally, to you, Mr. Carter.
Hello, I'm Larry Carter. I am a husband, I'm a homeowner, I'm a community organizer, I'm an educator, and most of all, I'm just like you. I am a person who's been in this community for over a decade, and I'm stepping up to see the change that I hear from my neighbors. They're worried about being displaced because of affordability. They're worried about their safety. I am here to do the job. On November 2nd, you have a choice. I am the change that you can believe in. I will listen to your voices. I hear you. I'm a leader. I believe in having the people at the forefront, not politics. And that's what I'm all about. And if you want to move the heart of the city forward with me, go to LarryCarterMovingForward.com and learn more about the campaign. Join the campaign. We would love to have you. Thank you so much for having us tonight and for your time.
Mr. Carter, thank you very much. And we ought to say thank you again to all of the candidates participating in tonight's League of Women Voters from Fulton County Community Forum, knowing that 2 of the candidates were not present. One was ill, the other did not respond to the invitation. It is now my pleasure to turn the program back over to our president, Ms. Nicola Hines.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And thank you for attending our District 4 candidate forum tonight. I am Nicola Hines, and I'm the president for the League of Women Voters, Atlanta Fulton County. Thank you, Ms. Presley, once again, doing an excellent job being a moderator. She's been one of our moderators for the past year and a half since we've been doing Zoom especially. Thank you to our candidates that participated tonight, Mr. Carter, Mr. Dozier, Ms. Scott, and Ms. Williams. We really appreciate it for taking the time out to educate, empower, and engage our residents in the city of Atlanta, especially District 4. Thank you to the Voter Service Committee for putting in all the hard work to get these candidate forms out. We are 4 in out of 15. So we're doing 15 or 17, I forgot the number, in 30 days because we have so many seats that are up for the city of Atlanta. There's only 3 seats that are being uncontested. So we are trying to make sure that all the residents of the city of Atlanta has an opportunity to meet the candidates that could be representing them next year. Also, thank you to our partners, ACLU, GABWA, Pi Alpha Omega of AKA, for partnering up with us tonight. We're greatly appreciative of it. And we also will have 2 hybrid events. Just want to let everyone know. We are doing a mayoral candidate event. It will be hybrid, hosted at Emory University. That is October 5th at 6 p.m. And we are also doing a City Council President Forum on October 12th, and that will be at the Gathering Spot. And that also will start at 6 p.m. So voting is important regardless if you vote every month, every year or every 4 years. However, participating in local elections is even more important because it starts with the change that's needed within our community. Your council members, your mayors, your sheriffs, DAs, and judges should have sympathy and empathy for what you and your community need day to day. And the only way to make that happen is if you go to the polls as an educated voter and vote. Hence why we do so many candidate forms, because we want you to make sure you go to the polls with the correct information sorry. Once again, I want to say thank you for attending tonight. If you would like more information about joining the League of Women Voters, Atlanta Fulton County, because I wouldn't be the president without soliciting, you can go to our website at lwvaf.org/join. And just to let everyone know, the League is proud to be nonpartisan. Neither we support nor oppose candidates or political parties at any level of government, but always working on vital issues of concern to members and the public that accepts members from all sides of the aisle, race, gender, religion, and sex. So yes, gentlemen that's on this call, we do accept you as members, so you can join. So thank you so much. And once again, everyone have a great night. Appreciate you all.